Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Moz House podcast. This is another episode of the Moz House Alumni Circuit. And this time I'm here with our residency alumni named Jacoub Reyes, or Jacoub Reyes. Um, so how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you? Thanks for having me on, Hunter.
Yeah, anytime. I'm doing pretty well too. Had a nice, relaxing weekend and back into the podcast schedule. So, what can you describe your art for all the listeners out there?
Sure. So, I am a large scale woodblock printmaker and installation artist based out of the greater Miami area. I salvage my materials. So, a lot of the tools and the substrates that I use are found and then kind of manipulated to create, my images and installations. So it's kind of like a puzzle piece before the actual art making. And a lot of people, consider finding the materials part of the art making. So I just think it's really exciting to kind of go out into the real world, source all these materials, and let it influence these broad ideas that I have, and then create out of that. So I have a lot of fun with my practice, and um, I'm really happy and excited to always be able to share it with others. So I'm also an educator, so I that's a big part of my practice as well. So I share my techniques and the different things that I've discovered throughout the years, and um, you know share it freely because I believe that education should be available, and that people should constantly be curious. So that's some of my main goals when I create my work and when I collaborate with others.
Very well said. I actually like to do a little deep dive on to whoever I'm interviewing's Instagram and see what they're up to recently. And I always see that you're doing all sorts of services and educating people around your community about art. And not only are you doing that, but your art's kind of like a bestseller over at Ma's House. I feel like every other week you're selling another piece somehow. People love it. I don't
Yeah,
know if there's anything left.
yeah, that's definitely, I don't take that lightly. I think that's a huge blessing. And I'm so glad that I get to, you know, have my pieces in, other people's houses, like collectors, and that I can continue to support Ma's house, anywhere that I am. So that feels, double good.
Yeah. Do you know offhand if there's anything, in case people listen now and want to check it out, is there anything left at Ma's House or has everything sold out? I know something sold very recently.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I think two pieces sold for the alumni show, which I'm so grateful for. Um, but I think, yeah, that would be a question for Jeremy.
Mm.
Um, and if not, I mean, I think there's some more floating around that might be, on loan at, a couple different places that we can get more into Moz House's hands.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. People, honestly, definitely our bestseller. I want to say, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
So, how did you discover Ma's House?
So, I think it was through Instagram actually. I kind of browse the internet a lot for, different opportunities, especially being, part of the BIPOC community. Um, I'm pretty grateful that there's more exposure and more movements that are, kind of building up, you know, this type of following, I guess you can say. I mean, obviously we've always been here, but now, you know, Black, Indigenous, people of color are starting to get recognized and starting to get more opportunities. So I just thought it was a really unique, opportunity where I could, you know, um, go to this, go to the Shinnecock Reservation, um, be next to like real working artists, just like Jeremy. I mean, He's a phenomenal artist, and he's such a hard worker, and I just kind of love matching, the energy to where I go. So that was really helpful for me. So yeah, basically, I believe it was Instagram, and yeah, I just like being around people that are truly passionate about, art and movements, and kind of making a difference. So
The power of social media in this day and age is pretty intense.
yep,
All
definitely
these opportunities out there.
very prevalent.
Yeah. So, what was your favorite? If you had a few favorite moments at Mom's house you'd like to share from your residency?
Well, I think it was a whole gamut of emotions when I was there. Because I went in December.
Mm,
So it was pretty cold. I mean, obviously the overall experience was amazing. I mean, um, there were warm nights when we were just, all kind of playing, Mario Kart on the TV, and then there was cold days and mornings out when I was doing the large mural. Um, and it was interesting because at that time there were a lot of ticks everywhere.
mm,
Um, but they seemed to be kind of like paralyzed. The weather was kind of like in flux. So one day it would be super cold, like, 20 degrees and rainy, and luckily I packed accordingly, which was nice. Um, but yeah, I would move like, a piece of wood or a piece of metal like around that site, and it would literally like jitter and kind of like jump like the whole piece, and that's how many ticks were surrounding me. It was just thousands. They were like in my paint. They were and after every session, which, in December in New York, that area of New York, um the light is kind of limited. Like, it felt like sundown was like 3 or 4 o'clock.
mhm.
So I would wake up at 6 a.m. ready to go, and then it would just be like raining, and then I would have to wait till like 9 or 10, and then I would have to finish by like 3 or 4. So it was really interesting, but I definitely had a lot of time to explore different things too. So a highlight was, taking the bike around the reservation, going to the beach. I went to Cooper's Beach, and I went to the beach, you know, on the actual reservation, and got inspiration. Made a lot of videos. Again for social media, but also for
Mhm.
myself mainly. Um, and I got to meet a bunch of people, like super influential artists, curators, and just friends. Um, so those are really some of the highlights that I touched on. I mean, I can go on and on and on, about all the things that I was able to experience and kind of get out of it. And I'm glad that, you know, to kind of mirror what I said before, that I'm able to, continue to, you know, back in some way, because I'm really grateful for that whole experience. So
My favorite, I guess, thing that you did on your residency is definitely that Shinnecock Kelp Farmers mural. I think that's awesome. I still, every time I go back, I usually look at it. Sometimes take a picture. It's just always something nice for me to go and check on. I like going and check on the mural, see how it's doing.
yeah, yeah. I was super inspired by those, 6 women. They're just so powerful, and I love that, the message and the practice. Um, they're really taking it to a different level. So
Yeah. So you wouldn't think so at first glance, but kelp farming is so scientific, and I had no idea it was like that until I really like they were telling me about it. My mom's part of that group, and when she was explaining it all to me, it sounded like I would need to go to college just to learn how to do all this science stuff just to be part of this organization. So it's pretty
yeah,
amazing they're able to do it.
Definitely. Yeah, it's so involved. And when your mom actually took me out to the site, I mean, she was just explaining, the whole process, and she was showing me the spools where, like, kind of kelp organisms stick onto these fibers, and then they continue to grow. And then I looked inside, a microscope, and I was able to see all of them moving and stuff. It was just so cool. It was just such an interesting, setup and experience. And the fact that they're able to grow, everything from like such a small level, and actually, exceed, you know, scientists and institutions in the area, exceed, their thoughts of how it would, grow. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, so that was really cool to see that they were like, breaking through so many barriers, not only in the, scientific and plant community, but through the societal, kind of views of what people are capable of doing.
They like to go above and beyond. I don't even think they try to half the time. They just do it,
Yeah,
and it's
exactly.
always amazing.
But I
So
definitely think it's different, when it's coming from like a certain place. And you can see that they're not just like a factory, or, like I said, an institution like pumping this stuff out, like, x amount of resources, x amount of this and that, like interns or whatever. Like, these are just like six genuine, hardworking people that are putting heart and soul into it, and that can't be replaced. And I think that's why it's going so well.
hmm
You can't fake that, you can't buy it, you can't do any of that stuff. Like, this is real, um spiritual stuff. I believe, it's it definitely kind of transcends this physical realm, I think.
agreed. They one thing I guess I would say that they genuinely care about the work and the difference they're making, and that's just a lot of people, especially factories, like most people just go to get a pay and to do their job, but this is like their life. It's the
Yeah.
difference, I guess.
Yep, definitely.
So, a few more questions about your art. What is your favorite medium to use? I know you use a lot of different ones.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a pretty interesting question, and that's kind of a hard one. Um, I recently worked with like aluminum siding, and that was pretty fun. That was a little on the more dangerous side because you have to make sure you wear gloves and stuff, so it doesn't scratch you, and you have to get like a weird tetanus shot or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I worked with chicken wire. I think that was a pretty interesting. I like, to be honest, I'm really attracted to these kind of utilitarian, like, materials. Like, they have other kind of like commonplace uses, and I kind of like morph them into, like I said, art tools or materials. um so, like finding different oils to make print transfers, or you know um printing on different, materials or surfaces, and see how they come out. So, yeah, going back, I mean, I've been really honing my skills on woodblock printing, but to be, I think, um, I don't really have a like a favorite medium, because I think my mediums are really based on just the process and the experience.
Hmm.
So that's what my favorite thing would be, is like those puzzle pieces. Whether it be, someone gives me a piece of fabric and it has a cool print on it, and then I make a woodcut specific to that printed fabric. It's all like kind of like a puzzle process. It's just me piecing together, these ideas until they start making sense. So I think that's my favorite medium is um, puzzle mediums.
Wow. I would almost say that's like truly creative problem solving. Like just using what you have. It's very interesting and giving life to things that don't usually aren't used for art.
Hmm. Hmm.
Big fan of that.
Or using what you don't have, because I find a lot of this stuff in dumpsters, or people throw it away, or I see something poking out of the ground and I dig it up, just always having a bucket and some gloves on hand, probably.
Wow. Yeah, I guess if you don't have it, you might as well go outside and look for it. You
Yeah,
might find something you weren't looking for too.
exactly.
How does your process change while you're on residency rather than at your own home studio, if at all?
Mm, wow. Yeah, that's a pretty good question.
Thanks.
Um, it actually changes a lot, you know, um, because residencies, they kind of separate you from, like, whether it be family, pets, um, anything, that you're used to, like even obviously the area,
Mhm.
so it kind of uproots you, and it puts you in a unquote uncomfortable position. Now, that means that it's a used to, not saying that the actual space or anything is uncomfortable, um, but it just puts you where you have to, um, or I can only talk about myself. Like, it puts me in a place where I have to react, you know? So I'm constantly firing off ideas, and looking at, site specific areas where I can, do an installation or do a performance, or mock up a design so that I can do a mural like the Shinnecock kelp farmer mural. You know, so a lot of it, it really sparks that improv section of my brain where it's just like, all right, let's try to, make something happen, and let's do it at a rapid pace. So I actually really like that, I can be somewhere for 1 or 2 weeks and create a ton of work, because I'm, either only worrying about myself, like I don't have to take out the dog and do this and do that. It's like all surrounding my practice and my art. And the best experience is that I get to, like, be in new places and meet new people, because that's what my process is all about. It's just centers around people. So when I was at Ma's house, I was able to do, you know um, two different, prints of with the Boys and Girls Club there, at the community center. I did an adult printmaking workshop. We did the mural unveiling. I mean, so it was super cool that I get to do so many different things within that my practice, and I couldn't do it without, people like Jeremy and Brianna and your mom, and um, all these different people, to have those important conversations, to put me into those different, you know, places to experience, different people and stuff. So I think that's what residencies do for me. And then back home, it's like, reality. I'm on the computer, usually emailing a lot, writing a lot, documenting everything that I did at the residencies. It's more the clerical part of the process. So um, just holding down the fort or the ship or whatever you want to call it.
It's very
And
interesting.
yeah, just kind of recouping and trying to get everything settled before the next thing,
Yeah.
whatever that might be.
Yeah. You basically answered my next question was going to be also. I was going to ask what inspires a lot of your artwork. I think you have answered that, but is there anything else you'd want to add to what might inspire some of your art?
Well, I don't think that I touched on, like, history,
Mm-hmm.
Um, when I was at Ma's house specifically, I got a lot of I got a lot out of like reading the books and looking at the newspapers and the different, journals from the reservation, um and flipping through like the whole like broad dictionary of the language and everything. Like that was so interesting to me. And yeah, I was just reading a lot and kind of trying to, just get as much as I could out of it. Like, what were, what are people's experiences? What are, just learn more about the cultural history, surrounding the land that, you know, I have been invited to be on. And
Mhm.
that wasn't something that I took lightly whatsoever. So, just trying to educate myself and have that, sort of help me come to a place where I can create work from. Um, so yeah, yeah, I think history and reading and research and all that really contributes to my work as well.
Wow. Yeah. It's very interesting. Speaking of history, let's talk about a little bit about yours. Where did you grow up?
So I actually grew up in New Brunswick, New Jersey.
Really?
So actually not too far from you guys.
Yeah. My dad's from New Jersey. I think it's West Orange.
Oh, really?
Have you ever seen Paul Blart Mall Cop?
Yeah.
That was his mall. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Yeah, they do have kind of like um those like kitschy, oldish looking malls. So I
Mm-hmm.
feel like that's the perfect place to film it, along with like Clerks. You know that movie Clerks?
I actually don't. I don't think I do at least.
Yeah, just wait a couple more years and then maybe watch it.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so I kind of grew up there. My mom was a single parent, and it was yeah, pretty. I think I get a lot of what I do from those experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Because we were living in various one room studio apartments sharing like the same fold out futon style bed for like you know over 8 years, just in different areas, constantly moving, which is probably why I hate moving, but I haven't stopped moving.
Mm-hmm.
So that also contributes to my experience now too, but also because we didn't really have that many resources. So I think that's totally reflective of my practice. Just always finding and making the best out of things. We don't have cable, so you have to do this. I mean, she read like 200 to 600 books every summer, to me.
Wow.
So, I mean, that was what we did. We visited libraries, we visited science centers, like anything free that she could, you know, show me, like, you know, different cultures or different parts of, educational curricula that she would make up for me. Because she's been a teacher for over 30 years already.
Wow.
So, her whole life has been modeled around me, basically, like her career, because she was like, I'm a single parent, how can I take care of this kid without you know being able to pay for childcare? We could only do it through family sometimes, but she became a teacher because she would have summers off, so no one would have to take care of me, and that she could watch over me because I would be at the same school that she worked at.
Hmm.
So it kind of worked out like that. And so, yeah, she's amazing. And she, still supports me and still, she's just a really awesome mom. So, I mean, I don't think I could have gotten this far, obviously without her. But so
Wow.
that kind
She
of
sounds
touches
amazing.
on my, what was that?
She sounds amazing.
Yeah, she is. So, yeah, and then we moved down to Florida, and I just continued to stay curious, um, and because I've really been into so many different things, so many different types of music, so many different types of interests. Like I was in high school for gaming and engineering. I took my first college credit engineering course in high school. So I was always into the STEM stuff and you know reading and all that. So I to be honest, all these experiences are really like I said, reflected in my art, but I never really planned on being an artist, I guess, Um, so I just find that interesting,
Yeah,
you know.
that is interesting. There's a lot of people I've talked to have been planning on being artists their entire life, and it's always fine. It's I didn't always plan on being an artist either, but we kind of just fall into this life path sometimes. The art takes over.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
one thing I do want to talk about is, could you explain a little more about the gaming? Is that like video gaming or like casino, like gambling gaming?
No, I don't think they would allow gambling in high school, but
Yeah, probably not.
that would be an interesting high school now that I think about it. No, I'm just kidding.
It would be. I
But
mean, you're not
but
wrong.
no, it was like actually making, yeah, your own like video games. So it would be like the programming aspect of things. It would be like, writing the code and then testing it. Um like that kind of stuff,
Hmm.
rendering your own characters and Maya and you know just all those different types of programs, especially because you know that was like in early 2000s, so all that stuff was still kind of new.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I remember making the we had this computers class, and I remember making the worst video game of all time. It was like this Pac-Man thing, and all it was just so bad. But it was just looking back, it was kind of like in art. Honestly, you'd have to make all these characters and figure out what you want them to do. So that was very fun for me too in high school. I think that was like 10th grade when I did that.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds like a 10th grade activity.
Yeah, it was
But
like
it'd be cool to a lot of artists are like going back to that 10th grade like experience and mentality and then working on that, and they're actually creating like this kind of like tech movement, tech kitsch movement,
hmm,
like for a while people would you know look down upon deviant art, and stuff like that, and
mhm,
now it's just like, yeah, work really hard and render your dragons really, really well, and we'll find a space for you in our gallery,
mhm.
So it's so interesting how art constantly changes and flips and, all that stuff. So,
Yeah, you can even use those type of websites as like your portfolio too. Because
mm-hmm.
people generally make amazing art that they just put online for everyone to see. You
Yep.
just stumble upon it. People are using your art as their lock screen, and you have no idea.
Yeah. 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 It would definitely be nice to have like some sort of track kind of thing where it would be like, oh, okay, this person's using it as this.
Yeah, that would be cool. It would be a little weird to see. It's like, oh, this person, someone in like Australia is using my photo for their profile picture on Instagram, and you just have no idea who they are. But you're out, works out there somehow.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's pretty sketchy.
Yeah, it is a little bit. It is a little bit. So so here's the question I've been asking all the other members of the alumni circuit. Do you believe in spirits or ghosts? And if you do, have you had any of your own paranormal experiences that you'd like to share?
Hmm. I would say that I think saying no to anything like that is so limiting. Like that means that you must know a lot about life and you
Yeah.
figured it all out, you know. So yeah, I would say that I believe in spirits and UFOs. I mean, that's probably going to be the experience that I focus on with your question is that, I've seen, kind of mysterious lights that have gone way too fast without making noise.
Hmm.
So, I think those experiences, along with my grandfather's experiences in Cuba, I mean, he had a couple stories about being visited and, you know, I don't know. I think alternate dimensions and space and time warps and all that type of stuff. I mean, that's all reflective in your question too, like spirits, like how do
Hmm.
we know that that's not just a mirrored, entity from a different dimension. So I'm always thinking about like string theory and different theories that kind of make me think about looking at life in different ways, I guess. So
Yeah, you're one of the first people to bring up aliens, but I would say that they fall under like the spirit slash ghost category because there is a good chance since we can't see all like the light spectrum that and even there could just be, they could be here and they're just vibrating at a different frequency and we just can't see them because of that. So I think
hmm
that's and they could be maybe they could be the ones that we just think are ghosts. No one really knows for sure, honestly, but
or
usually how you
maybe
think about it,
maybe they're in the core of the earth and they're
maybe.
coming out as reptilians.
I mean, if they are, I'm not gonna look at a lizard the same way. Gotta never mess with another lizard. They're gonna tell their
Yeah,
friends.
yeah, lizards and politicians.
Lizards and politicians, yeah, true. If there is a lizard out there, lizard person out there, it's definitely that Facebook dude. He looks very lizard-like to me. He's got lizard eyes. Doesn't look normal. Um,
Yeah. Well, and hopefully they endorse this podcast.
yeah, listen, if I mean, it would be a very interesting podcast, but there's a lizard guy out there, guy or gal or whatever.
or
If
just lizard.
yeah, or just a lizard. If you would like to um, come out on the podcast, I'll be happy to have you. We can discuss anything you want.
That sounds pretty good.
Yeah, and I'll provide the snacks. I'll find you something good.
Yeah, I'll set my push notifications so I'll be the first one to listen.
Oh, good. Yeah, that would be that. I'd have to have like that. Have a whole advertising campaign. The first lizard to talk to us willingly on the internet.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's out there already.
Yeah, the first one to say that they're a lizard at least. That's telling the truth. I'm sure there's a bunch of people out there. I'm sure there's a few people who might not be human living amongst us and we just don't know it. I think someone like LeBron James, I think he might be from a different planet. Just so good at whatever he's doing. Some of these athletes don't make any are just too good.
Yeah, he didn't he do Space Jam?
Yeah, and he did yeah. So I
Yeah,
think they're
he
trying to tell us something with
he
that.
has to be alien because you can't take the place of Michael Jordan.
Yeah, true. Michael
So that
Jordan's
that
probably an alien too.
that was a total lapse of judgment for the whole team, including him. Like, come on,
Mm-hmm.
just cast Jordan again.
Yeah, there's a scene in the movie. They're like, "Oh, Jordan's back," and then it was freaking Michael B. Jordan.
Oh,
Yeah, it
wrong
was.
Jordan. Definitely
Yeah,
wrong Jordan.
yeah, it was very
No.
sad.
Yeah.
My I actually dragged my whole family to go see that movie with me, and
Well.
they were very disappointed in that
Yeah.
movie. It was a bad movie, but it was fun for me
Can you
seeing
get
Space Jam.
refund from a movie?
You can do it if you're mid movie.
Oh.
I've had that been in a situation where I snuck into. Well, I guess I didn't sneak in. It was like
Uh
senior
oh.
year of high school,
This is on
and
record.
well, it was senior year of high school, and we were all 17 and able to buy R-rated movie ticket. We were gonna go see this like gangster film. I forgot what it was called. I didn't get to see it, but my friend had a late October birthday, November actually, November birthday. So he was only 16 and like 3/4. So we bought the tickets online, all got in, and somehow the like attendant came in. He like knew. he knew my friend wasn't old enough. Started scanning our IDs while we were in there,
Oh,
and my
wow.
friend got kicked out. So me and my other friend he was one of my best friends. So we were just like, we could just leave him. It wouldn't be that bad. We were like, we can't just leave him. So we left and they gave us a refund. We were like probably 40 minutes into the movie by the time that happened.
To be 16 and 3/4 again.
Yeah. And now we'll get, I think we still, every once in a while, we'll be like, I remember that time we didn't get to see that movie because Kyle was too young. Yeah.
And now look at it. It's just a D-rated film that you can get
Yeah,
free on like one of those free TV apps or
yeah,
something.
exactly. Oh, man, I need to figure out that movie was. Because
You
I
you can
keep been
always
meaning to watch it.
yeah, you can always watch a movie somewhere else, but you'll never, have the friendship. So it was a good idea to
Hmm.
chase the friend instead of chase the movie.
Yeah, we're still friends actually. That me and both those guys, we just went to Six Flags
Good.
a couple weeks ago, and we actually got stuck on a roller coaster,
Oh,
which was
wow.
horrifying. Yeah,
That sounds not cool.
yeah, it was like the Superman one. So you're like laying flat. I guess
Right.
you're laying forward like you're flying like Superman.
Yeah, I went on that one.
Yeah, and we got stuck. Luckily, not like while we were up, but um,
Is
at the
that
end of the
that
ride.
that one's in New Jersey, right?
Yes, that one's in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the Batman ride where the person got decapitated.
was that? Oh God.
Hmm.
Yeah, my friend wanted to go on that one after we got stuck, and I was just like, I can't do any more roller coasters today,
You
dude.
should have went to King Dakar. That one's a cool one.
I've been on that like 4 times. Yeah,
Yeah.
I have a good. My first one I ever went on there, I actually I like cut my lip really bad because it was going so fast, and yeah, it was like my cousin Heather had. It was my birthday, and me and my bunch of friends went, and my cousin Heather was one of the people that wanted to go on that ride, so I went, cut my lip. I'm like bleeding on the seat. She like doesn't notice. She looks over to me. She's like, "Oh my God, what happened to you, Hunter?" She's bleeding everywhere. Yeah. But then I
Wow.
went back a couple years. Like within the past 2 months, I've gone on that ride 3 times to, and each one my brain gets more and more loose from how fast that thing goes.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like when you're up there, the cars look like matchboxes.
Hmm.
Crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I am very afraid of heights, but I'll do things like that just to force myself because there's no reason to be afraid of heights if you're locked in. But what I'm really afraid of is getting stuck. I don't want to get stuck on a roller coaster. It just does not seem fun. And now that's happened, um, I don't know what to do. I just have to hope that doesn't happen again.
Yeah. There's been a lot of uh kind of like shoddy oversight, I feel, with like rides and stuff.
Hmm.
So I think you should play it safe until we get a little bit further into the pandemic and more specialized people are getting hired.
Hmm. Yeah.
Because even flying, I feel, has been sketchy. But I know the pilots and stuff have to do a lot of hours to be in there, but still, nothing beats experience. And if you're hiring a bunch of young, people that have just done their time, they're gonna learn how to navigate it different than someone's that's been doing it for years.
Very true. Flying, funnily enough, I'm not really afraid of flying. Um, although, like, if I fell out of that plane, there's no chance of survival. Um,
Well,
but
there
also,
is.
I
Just
guess
don't.
there's some. It has happened. I guess you're
Yeah,
right.
don't put your head in between your legs. I've heard.
Yeah,
Like,
don't. I don't know why that. I guess for insurance purposes, because if you're dead, you can't sue them.
exactly.
Yeah. I saw that like that was like the beginning. I was like, oh my God, all this stuff. They just would rather have you dead than sue.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
yeah, I don't think that seatbelt's gonna help me much either if we go down. But maybe a little bit. I'll just be stuck in my seat.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, you heard it here first, everybody. Don't put your legs between your head between your legs on a plane crash. You will most likely die. But if you don't do that, your chances increase at least by 3%.
Oh, that's pretty good.
I made up that number, so don't quote me on that, everybody.
Every percent counts.
Yeah, every percent does count. You're right. So, what is your when you first started doing art and you start taking it seriously? Where did you see your art taking you? And what was what's like your dream now?
All right. So what was the first part of the question again?
Oh, once you started taking art
Uh-huh.
seriously,
Yes.
where did you see your artistic endeavors taking you?
Hmm.
And then what is your dream now?
Oh, okay. So, you know, I I guess when you said when I started, right?
Yes.
When I started, it was like I just had such a different view than what it is, you know? Like I think I was since I was younger and I kind of went to a place like a school that didn't really kind of drill in the importance of writing, that I really graduated with just being like technically proficient, but I couldn't really talk about my work, and I couldn't write very well, and I definitely couldn't market myself. So all that is super important, to the artistic practice, like to be an actual sincere artist, Um,
Hmm.
and when I got out of school, I was more like a hobbyist. I had no real world experience, and I didn't know how to navigate it. And I was just like, oh yeah, you just sit in a dungeon and you do your work, and then people flock to you because of course they want to be part of your process and want to invest in your vision for whatever your art is, and that was obviously not true. you know um to be stuck in this vacuum and this mindset, and not diligently work towards it, and not to say that I wasn't working, because I was constantly making work. I mean, in like 3 years I made like 3 or 4 years I made like 300 woodcuts, you know what I mean?
Wow.
So it
Yeah.
wasn't, and there were some were pretty big and some were just pretty normal size, but still bigger than what is usually accepted. But what did they mean? What was the link? What was the reason behind it? What is all these like important questions that artists need to address in their work. Like I didn't do any of that. I was just like, yeah, the image should be, good enough for everyone to understand it. And that's obviously not true, you have to give context. You have to do all that. So yeah, I just thought that I would just, go out, get, get a studio or constantly work, constantly put it online, and that's all I would need to do. And the reality is that, now and I wasn't going anywhere, obviously. I was a janitor at the actual school that I graduated from. So that's what I was doing within those, 4 to 5 years, was just working and doing those woodcuts, and my art career wasn't progressing, and I was kind of in a dead end job. So I started navigating the local art scene, and that was another end, because we didn't really have like a great, like there weren't too many venues, there weren't too many opportunities, so you could only really work in institutions, um, and that kind of started, like I honed in on my teaching experience and kind of started, using that, to get into these art spaces and learn more about art in general and meet artists, and that's basically the track that I've been on. Is like now, today I wake up, I usually contact at least 4 to 5 people. I constantly read articles and blogs, and any way to constantly expand and collaborate on my process, and use different materials to to investigate certain ideas, and yeah. So I, at this point in time, I don't know what my dream for my career would be, because I think that I wouldn't want to limit that. I wouldn't want to limit the possibilities that I don't know are out there. So I would just say that I am open and receptive and excited and willing to embrace whatever that might be. You know, so that is my dream for my career and my artistic practice, is just to be open to what it evolves into, and work against it devolving,
Yeah.
and going backwards in time, you
Hmm.
know.
Very well said.
Thank you.
So we're nearing the end of the podcast. There's only, I guess, one more question. And that question is, do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, do you believe in spirits?
Do I? Yes, I do. I've
Okay,
had a good amount of run-ins. Um,
let me hear one before we go.
one before we go.
Yeah, top one.
Okay. So my top one. Hmm. I would like to say something about an alien type of experience, but the most I could put to that is just I feel like I've seen a unidentified flying object. I don't know. Maybe just be some new government project. Who knows? Can't really say for sure, but uh I've said this story a few times on the podcast, so I'll try to keep it brief for everyone who has heard it. But on this past April Fool's Day, um, I was visited by a apparition of some sort, and they pulled an April Fool's prank on me by waking me up in the middle of the night, just staring at. So I woke up, looked up, and there's just this floating old man above me, and he had a green hat on, and then so I like looked at him, and I've been dealing with kind of ghosts all my life, so I just looked at him and was like, let's not do this right now. Could we just leave me alone? I guess I'm tired. And so he looked at me, wouldn't stop looking. So then I tried to kick him, and my leg went right through it. And then he looked at me again. I guess he never stopped, but his like expression changed a little bit. And then he just floated right out through my window, right above me. And I said to myself, "Well, I'm not going to deal with this right now." I just went back to sleep, and that was my April Fool's ghost prank, which happened, I guess, now like 4 months ago.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, that was the most like I've had to interact. Usually, I just see them or know they're there, and I either know immediately to stay away or I'm just fine.
Yeah, that's pretty intense.
Yeah,
Very,
and
very interactive.
yeah, and none of my friends, maybe some of them believe me, but most of them are like, don't believe that that actually happened to me. But um, they're the other correlation is they're all not really. Most of them are not artists. So I think there's an interesting correlation between people taking up in the arts and what they're more open to trying like new viewpoints than people who don't have anything to do with the arts or just or enjoyers of art instead of creators of art.
Hmm. Yeah, which they might use that to their defense, saying that you might be imagining all this stuff.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I do have a very good imagination, so to them that's very possible. I could also just be a crazy person. It's like, oh, Hunter's going crazy again. He's seeing ghosts. Not the first time he's told me about this.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you can film it next time and then tag me on Instagram. No.
Yeah, that would be it would get on one of those video like those TV shows like was this a real ghost sighting or was it fake? And then it would have this crazy voiceover about in the middle of the night a ghost visited Hunter Begun. Just said hello. Something like that. Um yeah, so that's my most prominent one, the one that's most freshly in my brain. There's a bunch when I was just younger. Just like they'd appear, I'd see them out of like the corner of my eye. I'm in the same spot every time. And I know they're just hanging out. Um, and they were usually not connected to me in any way, just some random ghost that was attached to the house. I think they like to attach themselves to homes. They've stayed there. They don't like to move.
Wow. Yeah, me neither.
Yeah.
So I guess we have that in common.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, at this point in the podcast, I like to give you a few minutes. Take as much time or as little time as you want, but it's your opportunity to plug all your social medias. I know you have an event coming up in Seattle. If you want to talk about that, tell people to check out your website. So take it away.
Yeah, definitely. So you can see the latest happenings in my studio at on Instagram at Jacoub Reyes. So that's JACOUBREYES. And my email's the same. It's jacoubreyes at gmail, jacoubreyes.com. Um, yeah, just you could even Google my name, Jacoub Reyes. And everything should kind of pop up. And yeah, I have a pretty exciting event um, taking place out of Seattle at Sidereal Fine Art Press. Sheila has been amazing to work with, and I'm collaborating on with her on um, a series of workshops for the local community. So we really have everyone coming out. We have actual artists. We have, just literally people from the community. And I requested to do a special um, private workshop with the Duwamish tribe. Um, so hopefully, we can empower, everyone through printmaking and art, and hopefully, people can, start little side businesses and create, and sell. So I think it's really exciting. And then we're going to be doing a couple of live demonstrations where I'm going to show, um, you know, the community how to print large and by hand, so without a press. And we're gonna have potlucks and concerts and all this cool stuff. And the best part is that you know um, it's free to everyone. So you get to keep your block. You get to eat some food. You get to just enjoy being around others. So that's kind of what I'm passionate about and what I try to encapsulate in my practice. So I'm really excited for that. So that's happening at the end of August and into September. So if you know anyone in this Seattle or Pacific Northwest, let them know. And yeah, that's about it. I'm just excited for the future and what it has to offer, and I am definitely blessed to be a part of the Maz House alumni circuit.
Well, we're happy to have you. And that event sounds awesome. I wish I could go.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast, Yakub. It's always great to talk to you. I'm excited to see where your art takes you. Um, I'm a host, Hunter Begun, and we'll catch you guys next time. Thanks for listening.